The book focuses on the concept of feedback, which is an idea borrowed from other areas of science, and interprets the economy in that context. It looks at negative feedback, which is any process where a change tends to reverse itself. It looks at positive feedback, which is any process where a change tends to feed upon itself, and interprets all economic change in terms of the two of those. That's the first half. The second half is that the book then looks at what that interpretation implies for policy. And what it tells us, in essence, is that there are many situations where, contrary to classical economics, the economy does not have any quick tendency to return to equilibrium. And in those cases, intervention, regulation, fiscal adjustment, monetary adjustment, and other kinds of intervention are needed to bring the economy back to balance. The reason I wrote this book is, well, for starters, I've always wanted to write. I've also always found classical economics a bit frustrating, and given my background as a scientist, I had some ideas that I thought would be a better basis for economic theory. So I thought, let's just do it. I'd say I've got sort of two very different areas of experience that both fit in. The first one is my former career as a biological scientist before I became a risk manager. And in many ways, biological networks are actually quite similar to economic ones. You're looking at a dense web of interactions where everything in one way or another comes back and affects itself. For that reason, biologists think of things in terms of positive and negative feedback loops. So that is where the inspiration to focus on feedback phenomena came from. The other side of my experience that's also particularly relevant is that as a risk manager, most of what I see suggests to me that markets do not adjust very efficiently and therefore need regulating. The book is aimed mainly at people who are interested in economic policy. That could be either those who actually make policy or simply those who have an interest in it. The most important thing the book does is to codify the defects in markets into a coherent body of theory. So classical economics does quite a good job of codifying all of the things that make markets stable and bring them back to balance, and happily ignores the systemic character of a lot of the downsides. This, in essence, tries to, at least to begin, providing the other half of the story. The principal thing that I'd like readers to take from it is that almost everything that happens in an economy in one way or another comes back and affects itself. Everything is a loop, and simple linear thinking simply won't work. And possibly the only joke in the book is an instance where I was discussing with a trader the role of testosterone in influencing trading behaviour. To me, naturally, this was further evidence that these markets needed regulating to control the volatility that results from that. To him, it suggests that he should perhaps get testosterone patches to enable him to stay ahead. What I think that tells you is that there are two very different reasons to be interested in economics. There are wanting to make the system better, and there is simply wanting to benefit yourselves. And I think that's what that story underlines. I'd say the moment the book is important at this point in time is that we are at a very interesting moment in history. We have had 30 years of one version of economics, which in essence told us that markets were perfect and that we shouldn't trust them with everything. There is now an opportunity, given that all that has been discredited, to try and build something more balanced. Given that that's the case, anyone who has an idea as to how to do that, now is their moment.